Running your apps inside Docker is arguably one of the most straightforward and, in my view, one of the most transportable ways of running your apps. If you have a Python app and it works inside Docker, it's really easy to port into a different environment or someone else's machine who are also using Docker. So, in this really simple first episode, we're going to do effectively the hello world but in Docker style. So, just to prove this runs, let's go ahead down to my terminal here and do python 3 main.py, and we see hello world from Docker. Of course, this works fine on my host machine right here. Now let's see what steps we need to do to make this work inside Docker. I'm going to do my little comments here as well. So step one, we need to make a Dockerfile here. So let's write this properly. And the Dockerfile's job is to basically give the instructions to Docker to basically say, here's the environment, here's what you're going to install inside this environment, and here's what you're going to do. Now, by default, Docker isn't going to come with Python. It's not going to come with any dependencies. So we need to say in a Dockerfile, use this version of Python, install these dependencies, if any, and here's the command. So just like how I've done python 3 main.py, we need to give the equivalent instructions to Docker. So let's go inside here. So inside September, we'll do a new file, and we call this Dockerfile like this here. And if you've got VS Code, you should see it turn into that little sort of whale shape. And we do a couple of different things in here. The first thing we've got to do is do a from. And we need to define a base image to basically pull down and start to build up our environment. The image I'm going to be using is going to be this guy here. So this is Python 3.12 Slim. This is the official image. So give this a little comment here. That's our official image. There we go. Okay, next up, we now need to tell Docker to set a working directory, copy my main.py into the container, and then run. For this sort of setup, it's really, really straightforward. Things tend to get a bit more difficult when you want to start doing things like saving files in and out of the container, installing dependencies, but for this simple hello world example, we've only really got to do a handful of things. It's good practice to set a work directory, so we'll do work directory as app here. So let's set this, write this here. So this is my working directory. Useful in future, say if you're saving files and stuff like that, or you want to maybe copy things from outside into your container, you might choose to copy them into here, but good practice, have a working directory, just like how I've got one here, which is my YouTube code September folder. We're doing the same thing in Docker effectively. Now then, if we were to run this Docker file now, all it will do is install Python and be in a directory. That's it. It doesn't have my main.py. So why do we put that inside the container? We'll say copy main.py dot. This is like doing the copy command or the move command in Linux. You need to give it something to copy and where to copy it to. The dot basically just means copy this into the container, and that's it. So let's go ahead and write this here. Copy the code into the container. There we go. And then last but not least, we need to do the equivalent of how I did. Like if I do python 3 main.py, we now need to tell our Dockerfile to basically do this. We'll do my python 3 main.py. And we can do this in a few ways. The easiest is to do cmd and then do a list. And this is basically just a list of instructions. So the first one is a string. We'll just say Python. And then we can then do main.py like this. And there we go. So let's just quickly go ahead and write a comment. So run Python, and basically execute main.py. So from the top, we're saying in this brand new, fresh, isolated environment, install Python into it, set a working directory, copy main.py into the container, and then finally run Python and run main.py. And that's it. So if this all goes to plan, rather than me just doing python 3 main.py, we should be then able to do that from Docker. Now, the command we're going to be doing for this is something like this here. Let's go ahead and do 2. It's going to be docker build. Now, I actually use Docker desktop for this, so if I just show you in the command line first, if you do docker image ls like this, this is going to show you the images on your local machine. At the moment, I've got none. If I go to Docker desktop, I can see images. Sorry, it's slightly cut off here, but you can see there's no images. I've got, nothing ready to go. Once this command is done, I should be able to see my image here when I do image ls and see it inside Docker desktop as well. So now we'll do docker build. The command for this is docker build. We then need to do -t. So we're going to tag our image as something. So we'll do hello world, then do a colon and say latest. Then what we need to do is do a dot like this. Now the reason I'm doing the dot is because the Dockerfile is in my current directory. So let's hit run, or just hit enter, sorry. And we should see it do a couple of different things. I'll allow this. There we go. So you can see it loading metadata. It's doing Python 3.12 slim. There we go. It's set the work directory, copied main.py, and it's good. So my app isn't running, but it is built. So if I do docker image ls, there we go. 13 seconds ago, we can see its size. That's because obviously it's made a new Python environment, and my repository is hello world. The tag is latest. In my Docker desktop, there we go. You can see this as well. And if you click on it, it'll give you some instructions as to basically what's happening, which is kind of cool. Now then, step 3 is to do docker run. So now we have an image. We now need to run it. So if we do docker run, I can then do hello world, like this, and then do latest. Let's try that. There we go. Hello world from Docker. So that's it. That's as simple as it gets, to be honest. We build a command. Let's go back to that for a second. So we say docker build it with the tag as hello world latest. These instructions here were saying, yeah, here's me downloading Python, making the worker directory, copying main.py inside it, and then, yeah, whenever I do docker run hello world latest, we see hello world from Docker, and that's good to go. One more thing we will do is just go ahead and do some dependencies. So let me go ahead and show you something real quick. If I did numpy as MP, okay, so import numpy as MP, let's go ahead and build it. So same command as earlier, docker build hello world latest. Yeah, no issues so far. If I go back here, we can now see we have our hello world latest, and we have a one from 2 minutes ago. Now let's go ahead and try and run it in the same way. And now we see a problem. Python's telling me we don't have NumPy available. That's because if we refer back to our Dockerfile, we didn't tell it to install NumPy into this current environment. So what we need to do is be explicit here and say, right, okay, let's go ahead and pip install it. Let me just quickly do a pip install of NumPy here. And we should see a version number. So what do we have? Pip list. NumPy 2.3.2. Let's make a new file to house these requirements. So requirements.txt, and we'll just do NumPy equals 232. So we've got our requirements.txt, but that doesn't currently exist inside here. So what we need to do is bring in our requirements.txt into the container and pip install it. And in my view, the simplest way of doing this is before we copy main.py, let's just do copy requirements.txt in. So let's go ahead and say this here. Copy I'll say copy the requirements file. And then we can then just do a pip install of this requirements file. So let's go ahead and do run. And then we'll do pip install -r. And we want to pip install from this requirements file here. Okay, looks good. Right, now let's try and do a docker build again. And we should be able to see it doing its pip install. There it is. So we can see it copied in the requirements.txt. It then ran the pip install -r requirements.txt. And there we go, looks good. Now if we come back here, you can actually see it looks slightly different. See how the previous two were only 144 meg? This one's 229. That's because of the additional imports we've had. So this is now a bigger image because we've now included NumPy as part of the build. Now we can go ahead and just do docker run hello world from Docker. So even though it didn't do much, we can see here, yeah, NumPy has come in, and that's absolutely fine. Let's go ahead and just do print dir of MP. If you do dir, it's going to be the directory, or yeah, all the attributes and methods of something. So if I just try that again, we'll do docker build. This will prove, hopefully, that NumPy is there and working. And there we go. So we should be able to see hello world from Docker at the top. And then we see the printout from my dir np here. And that just about brings us to the end, guys. So just to recap, all we've done is started off with a main.py. This, of course, just said hello world from Docker to begin with. We then made a Docker file. And to do that, we said, here's some instructions. The instructions have just said, here's the Python image to use. Here's the working directory to be inside of. We then copied in a requirements file, ran pip install on that file. We then copied over our code, main.py, into the container. Then underneath that, we then said the command to run inside the container is python main.py. So it's effectively like you saying python main.py outside the container, but of course, you could effectively port this, and the Dockerfile to someone else, and as long as they've got Docker, in theory, they could run this exactly the same as you and have exactly the same output. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to make this the start of a Docker series. So the specific things you want to see in Docker, feel free to let me know. And of course, videos are going to get more and more advanced, show more and more complex use cases. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great weekend.